Hello, one and all, and welcome to the SopranoCast. I am one of your hosts, Nate Max, and of course, my co-host is my associate, Mr. Archie Mitchell.
What's up, everybody?
We are happy to have you all here again with us this week, and I do want to share, I didn't get to talk to Archie today because we were both busy with work, so I didn't get to share this with him, but I do want to share the fact that our listenership from the first episode to I guess what would be our last episode that we just had last week, our listenership has gone up considerably. We've actually got about, over the past month or so, we've got about a 50% increase in listenership. And so I want to thank everybody that is listening, and please do, like Archie always says, let your friends know, let your mama know, let your daddy know, let your guma know.
Yeah, your baby mama, your baby sister, it doesn't matter who they are. As long as they can handle the sound of mine and Nate's voice, tell them to come on and listen. You know what I mean? Thank you guys so much. Nate always says this, and I agree with him 100%. When you start podcasts like this, you don't know if you're doing it as just a hobby or if people are going to even listen to it or what the feedback's going to be. The fact that you guys are listening makes us all the more happy to continue doing it, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So. This week we are reviewing Season 1, Episode 8. The title of the episode is The Legend of Tennessee Moltisanti. And as we go through the episode, you'll figure out why it is called what it is called.
Yes.
But this is a Chris, and I know you're a big Chris fan.
Yes.
Archie, so I'm sure you were happy. This is a Chris heavy episode of the show.
Yeah, because we really dive into what the Chris character is, but also that he isn't really happy being just a mobster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll get into it more as the story is going to go on, but this is where we really get to see that this young man wants to be a big mobster, but also a big Hollywood guy too.
Yes.
You know, so.
Unfortunately, he can't spell, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. And the scene that we're going to get to in a bit when Adriana questions his spelling is so cute, but you could tell she's basically calling him dumb in so many words. Yes. And he's dumb to the fact that she's doing it.
Yes, and I mean she's like you're dumb, you're kind of dumb, but I love you anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Your dumbness allows me to get away with what I need to. You know.
Yes. And we open the episode with Chris having it's a dream sequence, obviously, with Chris having a dream. He's pretty much having nightmares because of like Archie said. Firstly, he wants to be more, but we'll get, as we get into the episode, we'll also realize he also wants to be more within this world as well.
Right.
But with the dude he killed at the butcher shop.
Yeah, the Russian guy that he kills.
Yes, and what I think he says later on, he's like this fucking Russian or Czech or whatever the fuck he was, or something to that effect. But the one thing that I did think was funny in this whole dream sequence was there's a line in it that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
The dead guy gives Chris an order at the meat counter, at the deli counter.
Yes.
And he says, I think he says like pastrami or something to that effect. Pastrami on rye, hold the mayo. And Chris responds, we're out of mayo. So in other words, I mean, it's okay. He wants you to hold the mayo anyway. It's just something stupid that I wrote down, but hold the mayo. We're out of mayo.
Right. No, that whole sequence though it's the first time we really get a full-blown fever dream from anybody on the show. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see more of these, which is great because those dreams really tell you what's about to happen. You know what I mean? Because essentially the nightmare is the guy that Christopher killed is telling him, you didn't bury me properly. There's, you know what I mean? Wherever you put me, wherever you laid me to rest after you killed me, somebody's about to find me. You know what I mean? And they find out later on in the episode that area that they buried him in is about to get knocked down and be turned into condominiums because it's right underneath a bridge. And So essentially, it's granted you killed me, but I'm still watching out for you slightly by letting you know you gotta
Right.
go move me. You know
Yes.
what I mean? You gotta go move me.
Yes. And yeah, and we're, like you said, we're getting into Christopher's subconscious here,
Right.
digging a little deep into the character and his motivations as the story goes on. Um, and it's not just him. A lot of the tones of this episode are paranoia.
Right.
As Chris has his paranoia. Well, as we go to the next scene, which is set at a friend's wedding of Tony's,
Yes.
and all the guys, paranoia is building within them because of the fact that they're finding out that there are federal indictments coming out.
Which I found odd, Nate, and here's why. And I don't mean to jump ahead into other seasons,
Mm-hmm.
but they're at Larry Boy's wedding. It's his daughter's wedding. Larry Boy is one of Tony's captains. And he comes to Tony and the other captains and lets them know, by the way, my cop let me know that indictments are about to start rolling down. So we got to start cleaning our houses. Now, okay, that's fine and well. But we find out like a couple seasons down the road that Larry was a informant for the
Right.
FBI. So I guess he was still beholden to Tony, maybe, and he wanted to be a good guy and let them know what was going on. But ultimately, it seemed like whoever was a rat for the FBI was in Tony's crew.
Yeah.
He had like 8 rats rolling around, and he didn't know it.
And he didn't know it. Yeah. Well, and the seeds are kind of planted there too. With is it this episode or the next episode that we're reviewing in this taping? I think it's the next episode. But anyway, there's you've got not only that, but Mikey is planting suspicion in Junior's mind,
Right.
and we're going to get to that in one of these episodes. But Mikey's planting that suspicion in Junior's mind, even about Tony.
That Tony's going to an office to meet somebody, but he doesn't know who.
Yeah.
And Mikey's like, what if it's a lawyer? What if it's the FBI? What if it's anybody he's telling secrets to?
And that's what I've always said about when I watch, because I love mob stuff. I love this show. I love mob movies, the whole thing. But I've always said, I don't know if that lifestyle would ever be for me. Okay, sure, I'd have a bunch of money and could buy anything I want and et cetera, but you're constantly living life looking over your shoulder.
And it's not just from the cops, it's your friends.
Yeah.
Al Pacino in the movie Donnie Brasco said it best. You may have killed 1 million people, but the person who ends up killing you may be your best friend.
Yes.
And that's the bad part about it, at the end of the day.
It's like Jack Nicholson's Joker says in the 1989 Batman movie, hubba, 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 money, 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 who do you trust?
Exactly. At the end of the day, look, I know because I'm a normal citizen, I'm not a mobster. If, God forbid, my brother or my sister or a member of my family did something crazy, I would do everything that I could to protect them because I know I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that they're okay. But in the mob, when you have 1 million things on you, like, murder or robbing or whatever, and now they come to you and let you know a member of your mob family has just murdered somebody and you're going to go down for it, you begin thinking, well, what can I tell them that'll get me out but keep that guy going in?
Yeah.
So
just like really like we've talked about in the previous episodes, the whole purpose for letting Junior be elevated was for him to, if they needed a patsy, he's ultimately going to be the patsy.
He bites the bullet, right?
Yes.
My favorite line, though, in the whole scene that they're doing at this wedding, because every wedding that happened on The Sopranos, they always made you feel like it was a scene from The Godfather, because they do a line from it and be like, on the day of his daughter's wedding and things like that. And they're talking about the indictments and we got to go home and clean our house and do this and do that. Here's Big Pussy Pomponsero going, well, damn, I wish I would have known that. I just gave Larry's daughter $1,000 for her wedding gift. He's worried about having money in his head. And he literally walks back to the bride and groom and asks for his envelope back and walks out.
Yes.
Like, how embarrassing.
How embarrassing is that?
So it's pretty funny. So They go home. You see Tony and Carmella.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
go ahead.
Going back to the Junior thing,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that is emphasized also in the scene at the wedding, when they're all talking about what to do, if you notice, all the other guys are kind of looking to Tony for what they should do,
Right?
and they're
Junior's noticing.
Yes, and Junior's like, what the fuck are you asking him for,
Right.
And but much like the scene that we saw a couple of weeks ago having to do with Hesh's having to pay in,
right?
Junior still, even though he acts like he's got the biggest balls in the room, he's still, whatever happens that Tony is setting it up to happen that way, Junior's pretty much like, well, I was going to do that anyway.
Right. And Tony knows that that's what he's going to do anyway. And he's going to say that anyway. So Tony is feeding it into him and letting it look like, oh, you're the boss, uncle, whatever you say. But it's really Tony pulling the strings. So It's working to Tony's plan to perfection right now. If indictments do fall down, they're falling down on Junior.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of the older guys. So,
and like you said, then we see, we get to see the scenes of Tony and Carm, getting the money, getting the jewelry, getting the guns, all that stuff. I love the engagement ring thing.
Yeah, she when she's like, about herself.
She's like, you don't need to take my engagement ring. It's not stolen, is it?
Right.
And Tony has to think about it for a minute.
He gives he gives her the perfect husbandly look of, no, nothing's wrong. Don't worry, keep that on. And you could tell he's thinking, did I steal it?
Did I steal that? I can't remember.
I can't remember. It's been 20 years. And he pulls. Not only does he pull hundreds of thousands of dollars out of that air duct, but then he pulls an arsenal of guns out too.
Yeah.
It's like, why? I understand having guns in the home because you're a mobster, but he had a Tony Montana setup in the air ducts of his home. I was waiting for him to pull out a bazooka at one point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Missile launcher.
Yeah.
One thing I did note here is I don't think, as we go through the episodes, I'll notice it better, just because I was trying to remember the lady's face. But when they show Pussy at home, throwing the shit on the grill,
right?
I don't think that's the lady that plays his wife later on in the show.
It's not.
They showed as his wife.
They did change his wife. They changed Silvio's wife as well. Silvio's wife was a more heavy set, like kind of like a Jimmy Sack, Johnny Sack's wife. You know what I mean? Everybody. Yeah. I think that as they got deeper into the seasons, certain cast members couldn't return, so they just recast them because, well, they were minuscule at that point anyway.
Right. Nobody's going to notice.
Yeah. But then the crack up is in later episodes and seasons, Pussy's wife does become a part of the the crew, and so does Silvio's wife.
Right.
So now you have to keep them because they've had lines. They've been seen in 20 episodes. Keep them where they are. So for the most part, in the beginning, it didn't matter. As it got later, like no one ever mentions that Meadow had a nose job from episode 1 to episode 2.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to. Yes.
But it didn't happen. So my biggest crack up too is Meadow running into Anthony Jr.'s room and is like, wipe your computer, the FBI's coming. He's like, why? What do I need to do that for? Do you really want those FBI guys seeing all the porn you looked up? And it's like, that's kids. That's what you want to see children doing because it's real.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And he's like, oh shit, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for good looking out.
Right.
The kind of the next thing, because I know we kind of touched on it before about because the next thing in the show is Chris writing his script and the whole thing with Adriana that we already talked about. So after that, we get into what was probably, I don't know, I like the Melfi character and her chemistry with Tony.
Right.
But anytime, I hate to say it, but anytime that character is not in a scene with Tony, I find it annoying. Like, I find her family annoying.
Well, it's not her. It's the people she lives with or is around, yes.
Right.
Her
Yes.
shrink, when we learned that she's a shrink and you go and meet him for the first time, he is the most annoyingest human being in the world. Like the way he's that judgmental and looks down on people, it's like how could you give people advice if you're that, snotty and snobby, you know what I mean? Her ex-husband is she makes a comment to him, because he mentions, oh, well, they always blame it on the Italians with a vowel at the end of their name being in the mafia. And she's like, well, don't you have a vowel at the end of your name? You're not in the mafia. So yeah, her family is,
her son's
even her
especially
son,
annoying.
Yeah, her son is a typical bratty, everything bothers him. He was the lead-in to the kind of people we see today.
Yeah.
Where everything offends them. It doesn't matter what it is. So, but yeah, I agree with you. When Jennifer is not around Tony, she's a different character. She's almost defending herself at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, the whole story with that, like Archie was saying, is they're at dinner and they just get into a conversation about Italian stereotypes and et cetera, which is going to come up later on, as far as Tony being her patient, because they're kind of, for the family's kind of, or at least the ex-husband and the son are kind of pressing Jennifer about what this, who is this patient, is.
Right.
So it'll come full circle when we get to the end of the show. So we'll save it for that. But next scene,
they're really picking at it. They're really picking at her, and it kind of made me wonder, because as they say, life imitates art, and I'm wondering, do all doctors go through that in real life?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're like, you got to tell us, and he's like, what about patient-doctor confidentiality? You know what I mean? So you kind of wonder, certain things you may have told your doctor in the past, has he gone home and told his wife? Or his children, or his dad, or it really made me clam up when I talk to my doctor now about certain things.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yes, you're not going to tell him you made me turn my head and cough today, are you?
Right. Can we keep that between us today?
Yes.
So
there's some interesting trivia about the next scene in the episode with Christopher at the bakery, because Tony pretty much calls him and tells him, well, pretty much, stop being so whiny.
Well, you went over a small part.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's the news story about all these mobsters and the indictments that are about to come down, and they mention Brandon's name.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
To Tony, and that's what puts Christopher in a foul mood, because, well, why wasn't my name mentioned? Brandon was not even a soldier in the mob family, and I'm being left out. So he gets all bewildered and hurt and upset. So he decides to go to bed, and Tony calls him.
Yeah,
says, "Go to the bakery."
Yes, we're cleaning house. You go to the bakery and pick up the guys some pastries and etc.
Yeah.
And while Chris is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, while Chris is in the bakery, and we'll get to the whole thing, that he is essentially the kid at the counter was being a dick about Chris.
Yeah.
And he's serving everybody before Chris. And there's a gentleman who comes in.
Yes.
That is told he's like the last straw. He's the last straw.
Well, he walks back in. Hey, what do you need, Vito? And it just so happens to be the Vito we know from the Soprano crew.
Yes, and
he's not that Vito yet.
The funny thing is, in this episode, and I didn't catch it either until I started looking. In this episode, he is not Vito.
No, he's not the Vito we know, right?
His name is Gino.
Right.
In this episode. Right. And here's the fun trivia, okay? According to David Chase, the character of Gino, the bakery customer played by Joseph Ganascoli, I hope I got his last name right, is Gino Spadafori, the twin brother of Vito Spadafori.
That we never hear about again.
Yes, Ganascoli would play the character Vito beginning in season 2 of The Sopranos. Right. Gino was unaffiliated with the Jersey mob and had a strained, distant relationship with Vito. So according to David Chase, obviously he probably came up with that story after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the story. Vito had a twin brother named Gino.
Wow. Gino pissed Chris off while he was trying to get his pastries because the guy told him you could go out and get gas and come back and whatever. Chris was like, so I can go out, sleep with your sister, come back in a week, and I go to the head of the line?
Right.
Great line. Great line. Throws Gino or Vito out of the bakery, tells him, come back in 10 minutes, you'll get your stuff. Don't worry about it. And then proceeds to threaten this kid with a gun in his hand while this kid hops around with a pastry box in his hand. Now, this is one thing I will say, though, Nate. 42 years. I've been watching mob movies since I've been 10 years old, at least. I have never in my life found out what Schwedel is, but it looks amazing when they say it and they show it on any mob or movie or TV show.
Yep, never had it myself either.
And I feel stupid to walk into like a bakery, but you have Schwedel, and by the way, what is it?
What is it?
What
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, this kid
pastries, shoots him in the foot.
That's what I was gonna say. This kid is pretty much just unhastily throwing pastries in this box.
Yeah.
And Chris shoots him in the foot.
Says, next time I'm here, serve me. Like, would you even go back after you shot the guy in the foot?
Next time I'm here, show me a little respect. Yeah. You're probably not going back.
No. Especially because Tony finds out later on what he did.
Yes. Yes. And that's a great scene that we're going to get to, by the way.
But he takes the Schwedel and all the rest of the pastries to the big, throws him down on the pool table because they piss him off. And then Tony tells him, go sweep for bugs in the bathroom with the bartender. And the bartender makes it worse because he starts bragging. When they mention Brandon's name, it's like, I knew the guy. And Chris is just sitting there like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
this is my life. This is my life. He's like, I brought Brandon in. Oh, that's like, yeah, you guys were friends. I'm like, wow, this is horrible. But
and I am the next sequence with Carmela trying to get Livia out of the nursing home.
Yeah.
Or at least out of her room.
Right.
At first. And then she's convinces her to leave the nursing home entirely. But I love that it's the first thing I love is it's all a setup to get her out of the room so Tony can hide all his money and guns in her hat boxes and stuff in her closet.
Yeah.
Which is a great gag because as we find out later in the episode, he's let all the other guys in on this little thing. Yeah, your mother's moving in too, huh? Anyway, it's it's like we have figured out the perfect place to hide our shit.
Right.
But the other thing the other thing I love about it is because I always love the fact that Livia is like the most difficult fucking woman on the planet. I don't want to go to brunch. Why do you all of a sudden, what do you want to come here? And then Carm's pretty much like, I just want to do something nice for you, which really she does have an ulterior motive.
She does, right? For the first time, she does. But then what kind of a mother utters the words that came out of Olivia Soprano's mouth? Did he cheat on you again? Like, what? What do you mean again? You're basically telling her your son has been cheating on her all this time. You just blew you know what I mean? Even if she knew nothing, if Carmela never knew Tony had a girlfriend, she did now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ridiculous.
But like I said, I love this. I love the scene. I love the sequence, and I love the fact that, they figured out, hey, if we just have all of our old mothers come live at this nursing home, now we have a place to stash our shit when we know we're going to get raided. I find it hilarious.
And we can meet there because you can't bug a hospital.
Yeah.
So they were having meetings there and talking about certain shit. And it looked like, I just came to visit my mom.
And it also makes you wonder. It also makes you wonder because I know David Chase talked to a lot of people that knew about the mafia, were in ex-mafia people, et cetera, when he came up with the show. He wanted to be as accurate as possible. There were people on the staff, and there were people on the cast and on the crew that had a history with the mafia. So it makes you wonder.
Who came up with the idea?
Yeah, did he? Yeah, is this something that someone told him they actually did?
Well, what I'm wondering is, because we all know that Junior used to meet at his lawyer's office. So is it, I mean, even if he didn't find out from the mobsters, he may have, because it is common knowledge, you cannot bug a lawyer's office because it's between the lawyer and his,
attorney-client privilege.
So they might have Googled or looked up or found out, asked somebody, where else, they might even ask the cop, where else can you not bug or find out information from? But I mean, it is still funny to think, did one of these mob guys go, by the way, you should add that they can't, bug the old folks home since she's going to be there anyway. It really makes you wonder who gave up these kinds of pieces of information.
Right.
The only one that I know is common knowledge is you can't bug a lawyer's office. So what other ones are there? And who was the one that was like, look, they can't bug a doctor's office. They can't bug the old folks home. They can't bug right. You know what I mean? But no, this is a trippy episode.
I also think it's funny that that Tony is. I love the when he's in the office with Jennifer, and he's like, I mean, I'm just planning a vacation. I could be going. I might not go. It might not happen. Right. I don't know. And it's just funny because it's like, it's the vacation. Vacation is something you plan a long time.
Right.
So telling her he may or may not be going on vacation, it may or may not be happening, is like the flimsiest excuse.
Exactly. And her not being a dumb woman and finally knowing that he is fully in the mob, looks at him and goes, does it have anything to do with the indictments I've been seeing on TV?
Right.
And he's now dumbfounded that, she knows. He doesn't know how to really answer her correctly. He can't lie to her because she doesn't want him lying, because that'll piss her off and she might not agree to see him anymore. So he's got to, in a roundabout way, it might, we've got to wait and see.
Yeah.
It
might be going. It might not. He literally goes, it might not happen. I don't know.
Right. It might not happen. He's waiting to see, and it really goes to show, which she does care about him, you know what I mean? Because she's, asking these kinds of questions. But then she turns right back into a doctor and says, well, if you miss any appointments, I'm still going to have to charge you, which pisses him off.
Yeah, totally pisses him off.
And she knows she gets him like that when she mentions shit like that. So it's almost like she wanted to see what he might do this time. Like she was testing the waters. Is he somber? Is he weak? Is he calm right now? Or is he still going to be pissed off?
Yes. And the next scene starts. What we are going to see is because I know you and I, before we even ever started doing this show, long before we both knew we were Sopranos fans, we used to talk about the show all the time. So you already know, the listeners might not know, but you already know that one of my favorite relationships and dynamics in this entire series is Paulie and Chris. Anytime Paulie and Chris are together, it's some of my favorite shit. And we get to see our first real interaction between those two in this episode.
Yep.
And I love it. And
it's a great scene. It's a great scene because it's just two guys talking about their lives.
Yes, and I love Paulie's attitude about things. Like he's like, I never achieved nothing, so what?
Yeah.
My favorite thing about the scene is because essentially, folks, I always like over explain, because anybody listening to the show's already watched The Sopranos, but when Chris is trying to explain to Paulie about having meaning in life and his story arc and et cetera, et cetera. Yep. I love it when he says, have you seen that movie with Keanu Reeves, Devil's Advocate? And I love Paulie's response. Paulie's response is, ow. Yes, because he's like, he doesn't give a shit who Keanu Reeves is, but Pacino's in this movie. But so yes, I've seen it. I love it. He's like, ow. Which, by the way, the Devil's Advocate, Al Pacino's rant on that movie is one of the greatest rants, one of the greatest, like,
without a doubt.
Yeah, God is an absentee landlord. That whole rant that he does in that movie is one of my favorite scenes in a movie ever. But anyway, I just love that Paulie's like, Al.
Well, see, the thing about the Devil's Advocate, that's Pacino at his finest.
Yes.
In every movie, he always had a speech like that. So you knew it was going to be a good movie the minute Pacino had a 5-minute rant. You know what I mean? But yeah, Paulie knowing it. Go ahead.
Was it look but don't touch?
Yeah.
Touch but don't taste. Just but yeah, it's I really like the scene between these two. Like I said, it kind of starts to establish their relationship where, because as the show goes on, as the series goes on, like I've said before, I think we move Tony and Chris move from being more like brothers to being like a father-son.
Right.
Whereas as the show goes on, I really do feel like Paulie becomes Christopher's older brother.
Yes.
Even though he's much older than both of them, Paulie starts to play an older brother role to Christopher in the series.
Without a doubt. But in this scene especially, because he has to explain to Christopher, you aren't at a part of life yet where you need an arc. When he explains to him, I was born, I went into the army for a few years, went to jail for a few years, and now here I am, a half a wise guy. Paulie at this point, let's say he's 45, maybe 50.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher's only in his mid-20s right now. Right. So he's trying to tell him, kid, you ain't lived yet. What do you mean arc? There is no arc at 20-something.
Yeah, you have a lot of life to live still.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
stop wanting it to come so fast is what he's telling him.
And then go get dressed. Come on, I got ladies waiting for you. It's like, stop being a little bitch and let's just go. You know what I mean? So, and he follows, but he doesn't listen.
He doesn't listen. Because he
digs up the body.
Yes, he takes poor Georgie.
Yep.
to go dig up the body. And
Georgie was the whipping boy for everybody on this series.
Mm-hmm.
The dancers, the mafia guys, the people who came in the Bing, and Tony especially.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So Georgie and Christopher though go and dig up this Russian, Czechoslovakian guy, whatever he is. And I have to tell you something. I learned something in this scene. I did not know that your hair and fingernails still grow after you die.
I actually did know that. And yes, it is true. And the reason I know that is because it's stupid. But I mean, I guess it's not stupid, but I learned that because I actually took anatomy in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that in high school because your hair and your nails are actually just comprised of dead cells.
Right.
So as the cells continue to die, you as a corpse, continue. Like most corpses, if you open up a casket after a few months or so, are going to have long hair and long fingernails and a beard.
It blew my mind.
It's kind of fucking creepy when you think about it.
At the time, I was 18. I'm like, no fucking way. No way. No way. I'm like, so then what happened? Why are there not hair and fingernails on a skeleton? And my dad's like, you really want to ask that question right now?
Why don't you get past your first question first?
Yeah. He's like, don't even. He's like, don't dig where you don't need to. I'm like, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Somebody should have told Christopher that. Don't dig where you don't need to.
Exactly. So yeah, they dig the guy up. Georgie's puking. They dispose of the body the better way, I guess. However they had to do it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mob ways. I guess they might have soaked him in acid or whatever. And then Tony comes driving around.
Doesn't Chris even mention we need to take him to get it to the Pine Barrens?
Yep.
I think he does. I think he says we need to get him to the Pine Barrens before the ground gets hard or something to that effect.
Yep. So that would be the first body to bury there.
Yeah.
Or tried to.
A little foreshadowing there.
Yeah. I don't think they realized they were going to mention that again in the show, but it's funny that when they do mention it, and you go back and watch it, go, hey, they did mention Pine Barrens before.
Yeah.
The funny part is, when I'm going to like Atlantic City or down South Jersey Way, I pass by that exit all the time, and I laugh every time
Every time.
because I think of the scene of
Yes.
them sitting there wasting away. So I'm like, hey, that's where they were, and it's like I start laughing. So yeah. So now Paulie dimes Chrissy out to Tony and tells him, the kid's freaking out. He wants to be a wise guy. He wants to be a made man, but he's digging up bodies. He's doing this. He's whatever. So Tony pays Chris a visit.
Yes, and he lights him the fuck up.
Oh yeah,
and it's a great scene. It's a great scene because, again, getting to more of a father-son type of dynamic where it's just like you or I would be with our son. At first, Tony is hot as fuck.
Yep.
And then
as they start,
yes, as they start talking and Chris starts opening up about his feelings, Tony becomes more sympathetic.
Right.
Okay, kid, I see where you're coming from. I see what's going on here.
Right. He lets you know this is normal. It happens to everybody that does this. And then he utters the words, "You want to get caught. It's cowboyitis." And again, as an 18-year-old, I went, "What the hell is cowboyitis?" Growing up, as I rewatched it in like my late 20s and 30s, I'm like, now I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. It's when you do something and you're hoping somebody finds out.
Mm-hmm.
You either want the notoriety or the craziness that's going to come with it.
Right. So, and usually it's a big mistake.
Yeah. Because it doesn't go the way that you want.
No.
People are going to be like, oh, you really freaking did that? What the hell was wrong with you? Whatever. Okay, no big deal. No, it turns into World War III and you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. That's all there is to it.
So then now we get the whole scene with the FBI at Tony's house.
Yep.
And this is more, I know I say it on every episode, but it's so true. There's nothing better than me than sarcastic Tony Soprano.
Especially when he's dealing with Agent Harris.
Yeah, you find any quarters in there, you can keep them. And then the FBI agent's like, "You trying to bribe me?"
Yeah.
I love their back and forth.
His relationship with that Agent Harris, growing throughout the years was amazing. Because by the time we get to the final season, you're like, did they become best friends and I didn't know it?
Right.
So
it's kind of like Batman and the Joker. It's like they need each other.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Look, I understand you're a mobster. I'm an FBI agent. As long as I don't bother you and you don't bother me, maybe we could coexist.
Right.
So, and they're searching the house, and then they hear a bowl smash in the kitchen, which I never understood. What the hell was he looking for in the fridge?
Right. Yeah. Well, and you know what? To be honest with you, I guess I had forgotten the scene.
Right.
I had forgotten the scene from the last time whenever I watched the show through the last time. But for some reason, when they first go out in the kitchen, that bowl's on the ground. Honest to God, I thought it was a jar of peppers. Like the way the color was, I was like, jar of peppers, and then they said bowl, and I said, oh yeah, it's a bowl. But why was a bowl in the fridge?
Right, and then she gets angry and she like that was our dinner and I'm not cleaning that up and things like that. So you're like, okay, whatever. But then you go back because Tony, were you hungry? Why are we? All right, I get looking in the freezer. Maybe he hid money in there or whatever. But then you opened up the fridge part too.
Right.
Like what were you expecting to find? A Glock or a human head? Like I found it. I cracked the case. No,
right.
It's the fridge.
And I actually have the note here. Let me pull it up because, of course, I closed my notes thing on my telephone or on my telephone. What is this? The 90s on my cell phone.
Okay, I still say tape things, and when I mean DVR.
Oh yeah, me too.
I still tell my kids, "Can you tape that show for me?" My youngest is the best though. She's like, "Dad, what the hell does tape something mean?" Because she's only 13. She's 14, but so she's never seen a VHS tape.
Right. Maybe did I lose it? Oh, okay. Agent Grosso is the agent's name. And Tony tells him something with a hand gesture in Italian. He says, Ti faccio un culo così.
Uh-huh.
What
And
it
then
means is
go ahead, because I know what it means, but go ahead.
the actual translation. I did not know what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, I knew it meant had to do something with your asshole, but
Because he answers back, no, your ass, right?
yes, but it is actually translates to "I'll make you an ass like this." And as in other words, he's telling him he'll make his butthole very open.
Yes. Now, some may say that was a bit of a gay thing for Tony to say, because when you look at the big picture, I'll make your ass look like this. You know what I mean? But in the grand scheme of it all, what he was telling him is, I'll F you up. You know what I mean? I'll make sure that you are never on another warrant like this or any. You'll basically become a desk jockey. You know, or lose your job, because Tony did have friends in the FBI and the police station, so he knew this young punk kid that was giving him an attitude was going to pay for this in one way or another. So
and I enjoy the scene after the FBI raid, because obviously since our friend Agent Grasso ruined their dinner, they had to get takeout for dinner. But I did enjoy the scene. Also, I enjoyed it because of how annoyed I was by Melfi's family kind of talking negatively about Italians, even though they are Italian.
Right.
I enjoyed this scene of Tony and Carmela teaching their kids about the positives of Italians.
Right.
And like, you know, the just all the things that they discuss. I didn't write anything down, but I just, like I said, I thought it was a cool juxtaposition that the writers did in the series or in the episode.
I agree.
You know, you have these self-deprecating Italians that are not proud to be Italians, and these people are proud to be Italian.
Exactly. And even here, though, as Tony and Carmela are trying to teach Anthony Jr., because he's not quite mad, but he's trying to understand why this all happened and what went on and what it was all about. Here's Meadow pushing those proverbial buttons again.
Yeah.
By saying, well, wasn't it an Italian who started the mafia, Dad? And then, Antonio Meucci and this and that and so on. And Tony's just like, yeah, okay, keep it up. You know what I mean? Because he knows she knows. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, she's going to do this anyway, so I just might as well let get it out of her system.
Yeah, it's like, look at you over here being a teenage girl.
Right. But she was calling him out on his BS too, because he would look at the end of the day. You're defending yourself because you're trying to pretend that you're this model Italian person in society when you're the biggest mob boss in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of trying to bring him back to reality a little bit, like, don't make it seem like you weren't doing anything bad.
Right, but she's like that Meadow, and I like the Meadow character, but Meadow is just like her mother. She is critical of what he does, but she darn sure doesn't have a problem living in that house and swimming in that pool, and so, I mean, she's very much like her mother in that respect, where she likes to throw what her father does in her father's face, but she definitely doesn't mind the lifestyle that it affords.
Oh no. She knows exactly what she's doing, and that's the good. That was the you see the yin and yang. Anthony never does that to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He even when he gets older, as we're going to see, and as the time goes on, he really never gets into the mob part of the business. You know, he never tries to ask his dad anything about it.
Right.
You know, or what was this? Was this stolen? Or what did you have to do to get this or anything like that? Or try to use it to his advantage. You know what I mean? He wouldn't go to school and go, my dad's Tony Soprano and I can do whatever I want. You know, Meanwhile, Meadow would.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there was a give and take there. The son was a little more well behaved in that manner, as opposed to Meadow using it for all it was worth.
Like Archie said earlier in the episode, or earlier in the show, we kind of discussed it. Then we have the scene where Tony gets super hot about Melfi making him pay for his missed session. He pretty much throws money at her like she's a stripper.
Yep.
And gets very angry. And then we get, you know me, I love a good conniving Junior and Livia scene.
Yeah.
And we get a scene with a comedian, if you want to call him that, performing at the nursing home.
Jesus, he was bad.
Worst jokes ever. But I think that was the point.
Did you ever see the movie Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks?
Oh yeah, long time ago. I haven't seen that. Yes, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
He reminded me of that comedian that was in Purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
They were just really bad jokes that nobody got.
And every time he tells one and there's no laugh, he's like, "Come on, everybody! Is anybody alive out there?" You know, yeah. But yeah, this is essentially, this scene is the scene where.
Yep.
And with Livia, everything that looks like an accident is not an accident.
Nope.
She knows exactly what she's doing. Yes, she knows exactly what she's doing, and she reveals to Junior in the scene that Tony is in therapy, and I love that he's stunned. He's just like, a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist. And she's like, I gotta tell you again. And then that other old lady turns around and shushes her, and the look on Livia's face, like, oh, this bitch and the audacity. But yeah, this is good stuff. I every time I watch this show through, I have more appreciation for this woman as a villain.
Oh yeah. And her last words to Junior, I have them as a note, because they were chilling, because you understood what she was basically telling him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want there to be any repercussions. What she didn't mean, oh, I don't want you to bother my son. What she meant was, I don't want this to come back to me in any way.
Right, exactly. Yes.
You understand? So, yeah, here, my son's going to see a psychiatrist, so he's probably telling her all of your secrets. He's weak, he's this, he's that. Take him out, but make sure it doesn't lead back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so you dined him out to his wife, and now you want him dead. What?
Yeah. What a mother. Literally.
Thanks, Mom. Glad I'm putting you up in this $2,000 a month old folks home.
Right. Well, at least I can stash my shit here when the FBI is coming.
Yeah. At the end of the day, at least I have a hiding spot.
And of course, the ultimate payoff for this episode is Chris gets a call from his mother.
Yep.
Leaves him an annoying, it's Ma, one of those voicemails. But she mentions that a friend of hers saw his name in the paper.
So he runs out.
Yes, and he is super happy because he got what he wanted. His name is in lights, if you will.
And here's the thing that I found odd about it, because I haven't done this in forever. He runs down to a newspaper box, throws a quarter in, and pulls out a newspaper and reads his name. It's the Star Ledger. It's our biggest paper in New Jersey, by the way, or it used to be anyway. Now it's online.
Right.
And you could still get a hard Sunday copy of it, but you cannot get a daily copy of it. So he reads his name as an associate of the Soprano crew, Christopher Moltisanti. He's ecstatic. So he throws another quarter in and grabs every
paper
copy. And I'm sitting there going, like, who's he giving these to?
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody else is going to be pissed that their name is in the paper. So who's he showing these to? So yeah, that's the way we end the episode, is Christopher getting his name in lights. And yeah, this is the beginning of Junior's decision. Does he want to take Tony out? Does he not?
Right.
Does he want to use it against him and maybe get more power? We got to wait and see what Junior, if Junior Soprano is as devious as his ex-sister-in-law.
Yeah. Well, overall, out of 5 stars, if I'm using stars, I actually give this episode 4.
I agree.
I told Archie before we started recording, I didn't have a lot of notes per se on the episode, but what little notes that I had, you can build from those notes and see what a consequential episode of the show this is.
Oh yeah. For an 8th episode of only season 1, we're in it now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you didn't like this show before and you got to episode 8, you're fiending for more now. You
Yep,
know what
absolutely.
I mean? You're like, I got to see what's going to happen next, because now we might see an uncle and a nephew kill each other, or we might see a battle for power, or what. And we're only in season 1.
But which begs the question, back before we had the whole series and we had streaming, how in the hell did we wait a whole week without going crazy to figure out what was going to happen next?
The biggest thing I used to dislike about The Sopranos, this is my only qualm. It came on Sunday, and as you know, Nate, I don't know if our listeners know, but I'm a reborn again Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And on Sundays, I go to church. And it's not morning service. It actually starts at like 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to church and then go to dinner afterwards. And I'd come home, and Sopranos would either be DVR'd or taped or TiVo'd or whatever it was, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'd watch it. But my buddies who would go to church with me would not watch it that night. So I'd have to sit there and wait till Monday night or Tuesday to talk about it with somebody.
Yes.
I'd be like, guys, you got to watch the episode. You don't know what happened. You have to see what happened. Please watch the episode. Yeah, but we're busy. We're going to wait till tonight and watch it with our wife. And we're going to no, please watch the episode. So I would just be sitting there talking about it with my dad. And sometimes it's embarrassing to talk about The Sopranos with your father when you're 18, when one of the main characters' name is Pussy.
Yeah. Or wait till we get to the next episode.
Right. So
I want to thank everybody for joining us this week.
Yes. Thank you very much, guys.
And we will see you next week as we cover episode 9. It is entitled Boca.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us on the SopranoCast. Thank you for your continued support and your growing support. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, and like Archie said, let everybody know if they like The Sopranos, they'll probably like this as a companion piece to the show. And we appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.